Welcome to Prem and Proper here at SDH. We'll take you through the Premier League, get you reminded of what happened before the international break, and get you into the weekend. We will hear from a lot of the coaches, and we will get you ready for the matches this weekend. We'll go through all the juice boxes, and we will wrap up the show as we always do, running the anchor leg. It's Drew Dickinson with the 3D, the Drew Dickinson diatribe, where you know he'll talk about Manchester United. He's got some other things to talk about too, but there's a lot of Manchester United there, and I know that shocks you not at all. All right, no dilly, no dally zone. Here we go. Last time out, back on the 12th, so we're discussing things from basically 2 weeks ago. Here's your numbers from the 11th and 12th of what went down. From the weekend of the 11th, Wolves knocking off Spurs 2-1. Manchester United beats Luton Town 1-0. Luton Town hanging in there until late in the second half. Manchester United gets a goal for the win. Everton, big full points at a plus 195, knocking off Crystal Palace at Selhurst Park by the final of 3-2. Arsenal puts 3 on Burnley at a minus 500, beating Burnley by the score of 3-1. Bournemouth, because of a lot of injured folks for Newcastle, I want to say 9 gazillion players for Newcastle were out. Bournemouth got a 2-0 win, big win for Iraola as they are trying to scrap away from the relegation zone. Then on Sunday, the other half of the matches on the 12th, it was West Ham and Nottingham Forest in a shootout 3-2 final there. West Ham winning at a minus 123. Liverpool shuts out Brentford 3-0 at a minus 256. Brighton and Sheffield United, and we'll have response coming up from the Referees Association about comments made by Roberto De Zerbi after this match. Draw was a plus 523 at a 1-1 draw. Villa over Fulham 3-1 at a minus 154. And the craziest match of the time was the last one on the board. Chelsea and Manchester City, a 4-4 craziness. That's the only way to describe it. 4-4 craziness. 8 goals at a plus 294. And that sets us up for the table heading into this weekend to remind us all where things stand. Once again, through match week 12, we're heading into match week 13. Manchester City, 2 losses in 12 matches. They're at 28 points. 1 point ahead of Liverpool and Arsenal. Liverpool second on goal difference by 1 goal, 17-16 on the plus side. Spurs, they are at 26 points. Villa is at 25, and that's group number 1. This is when we start to get that separation of groups. Usually we have 3 groups or maybe 3 plus a group, and they're starting to get the separation. Manchester United, 6th at 21 points. Newcastle is in 7th at 20, and Brighton has drawn 4 of 5 as they're trying to juggle European competition. They're at 19 points in 8th. West Ham, 17 points. Gets you to 10th place Chelsea, who are ahead of Brentford on goal difference at 16 points. Wolves are 12th at 15, and they are ahead of Crystal Palace on goals scored. Identical record, identical points, identical goal difference. 4 more goals scored by Wolves right now over Crystal Palace. That gets us to 14th and Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest right now still trying to navigate the next 6 weeks without having Taiwo Awoniyi up top leading their attack. Fulham is at 12 points. That gets us to the single-digit folks. Bournemouth has won 2 of 3. They're at 9 points. Luton has drawn 2 of their last 4. They're at 6 points. Currently the relegation zone. Sheffield United is at 5 points. They've hit each column once in their last 3. Everton with the 10-point deduction that they suffered, and we've discussed it. We'll get into some of the comments as Everton is getting back into playing now as they are in 19th place. With a 10-point deduction, they are ahead of Burnley on goal difference. Burnley is last in the table at 1-1-10 through their first 12, and they are at 4 points. So that sets us up for all of the sights and sounds, getting us ready for match week 13. We'll start things off about Brentford. And Brentford knows that they have a keeper on loan at Arsenal, and it looks like Arsenal is going to pull the trigger in the January window on the £27 million price tag on David Raya. Here's Thomas Frank on that possibility.
There's lots of talk about Arsenal making the loan deal permanent. Is your hunch that David's played his last game for Brentford?
I think it'd be a surprise if he hasn't. I think it makes sense. He came there. He's playing more or less every minute for them. So I think that's what I expect. If not, then we have another good keeper back.
And once again, we mentioned Everton, the 10-point deduction. A lot of folks attached to Everton feel that it is uncharacteristically harsh, the 10-point deduction, having to do with FFP violations. Sean Dyche, courtesy of Everton their own selves, on discussing it with the team.
I think like everyone, well, certainly everyone in these parts was shocked. And seemingly the wave of noise after that seemed like most people in football, around football, are shocked. The enormity of it, disproportionate, is a word that's been used by the club. And, so obviously we're going to feel a bit aggrieved by that. On the other hand, it doesn't change the focus. The focus since I got here has been sorting things out on the pitch, getting the team to win, getting the team to feel different, the performances to be different. And we were obviously on the right lines for that and delivering strong performances, I felt. And then this has just given us a push backwards to then come forwards again. That's the job hasn't changed for me. It's just made it more difficult in the current circumstances until the appeal, of course.
What impact then does it have on the mood in the dressing room, particularly as you've taken those steps that you're speaking of?
Well, I spoke to the group and I said, look, the league table is one thing, but I don't change my story very often. At the end of the day, I've always believed that the final league table was the truth of the season. So I'm not going to change that now. I said, look, lads, it's for sure it changed the viewpoint, but it doesn't change what we're doing. In fact, it enhances what we're doing. It just means we've got to go harder for longer and stronger, play stronger. So they're the rules of football. This is what it is. So it's been more about refocus than anything. The group have been very good in themselves, I must say. With the characters we've got, particularly Seamus is a good voice, and Youngie with his experience, Tarky, Jordan, and many others, by the way. Ganner and people like that with their experience. Duke, all the senior boys particularly rallying and going, look, it is what it is. Let's get on with it type thing. So I think that's been the clear message from me to the players and from them to each other is let's take it on. Let's take on the next challenge. There's been plenty of them since I've been here. So let's take this one on.
While you've touched on the challenge that you face, how fair is that challenge in your view?
Well, like I said, I think I follow the club's words. I don't know every inch of what went on in the past. I don't know every inch of the commission and why they've come out what they've come out with. But I certainly believe in what the club put forward. The fact that it's disproportionate feels like it's unjust, and I think there's plenty of voices out there who feel the same. That said, what's done is done for now. Obviously, appeal pending. So therefore, we have to get on with it, and that's just the simple facts of it.
Coming up this weekend, the big match. It's early, and it has to be early because of security concerns. Manchester City and Liverpool. Pep Guardiola on what Jurgen Klopp has meant to his career, courtesy of Manchester City, their own selves.
And you just said that you and Jurgen are old friends and know each other very well. How has he made you an even better manager?
Absolutely. He made me help to reflect a lot of things, the problems that create us, and yeah, absolutely. It's part of the, of when you are many years in this business and you face many times him and his teams, not even here in Dortmund, always has been a big rival and a good game for the both sides, both teams, and positive approach to the games, no speculate few, and I think always have been attractive games. But I'm pretty sure. So he made me, I said many times, he made me better manager through his teams to reflect, what can he do to stop that movements of the other ones. And of course, for the way we play, for them it's good because the transitions, we have a lot of space in behind. They are incredible runs with Diaz, with Darwin Núñez, with Salah, of course, but now with Svolazzi and Gravenberch. So yeah, there's a fantastic team, fantastic legs. So yeah, top side. So no doubt.
We mentioned Spurs. Spurs has lost 2 in a row, and so, of course, that means mass panic has set in after their fantastic start, and everyone's still trying to understand what Ange ball is all about. Here's Ange Postecoglou, head coach of Spurs, on the build and what to expect.
Yeah, last 2 results haven't been great, but I guess my point is that, as I've said all along, we're at the beginning of trying to build something, and I think it's always important wherever I've been in the early stages that you stay really focused on that, on the kind of football we want to play, the kind of team we want to be, and not allow short-term sort of results, good or bad, either way, to kind of influence, how you're going. And like I said, but people will always kind of question and I guess scrutinise my approach or our approach. I understand that, and it's not really about me trying to convince people about what we're going to do. It's more about sort of internally making sure that the players, staff, we just stay on course. Our last two results haven't been.
Mikel Arteta and Arsenal, once again, we mentioned their third by a goal in goal difference, tied with Liverpool on 27 points. Mikel Arteta had to address a charge to the FA about Anthony Gordon, and here's Mikel Arteta in his standard soundbite length discussing the discussion that he's having with the FA and everything around it, courtesy of Arsenal, their own selves.
Gordon Gate, the Anthony Gordon goal, that goal. Have you managed to send your observations yet to the FA?
Yes, we have, yeah. And we will try to give our points and the reasons why, and that's not a lot more that I can comment on.
But are you happy with the way that the process has been handled?
Yeah, there is a process, and when you get asked to give your observation and explain yourself, you have to do it in the right way, and we have the mechanism and the processes in place to do that, and let's see what happens.
Also, that it was a vote that went on about clubs possibly having to have a temporary ban on player loans on associated clubs. And that would have affected the idea of Newcastle and a couple of other clubs who are attached, and then possibly having a temporary ban on getting players to help you out in windows from those associated clubs. Newcastle obviously tied to the PIF, and the four clubs in the Saudi League that are owned by the PIF possibly gaining more of a benefit than others in the Premier League would. Here's Eddie Howe on that particular vote that failed by one club's approval.
Well, yeah, you say Newcastle's favour. It was a Premier League vote. We're not the only club involved in that vote. I think the majority of clubs in the Premier League own other clubs around the world, so it's not solely on us, I don't think. Newcastle as a club had a view. We voted our way in the way that we're allowed to, and the vote came out on the side that it did. I think just from my dealings with it, we're very relaxed on it. It's not the be-all and end-all for us. We've got a squad that we really like. Now, if we can get players fit before January, the need to recruit will become much less intense for us.
Breaking news also having to do with stadiums and facilities. Once again, courtesy of Sky News. Guess what? The Anfield Roadside might be getting more people's butts in it come a very important match.
So, with all eyes on Liverpool and Manchester City ahead of that Saturday lunchtime clash at the Etihad between first and second in the Premier League, some breaking news to bring you from Liverpool, who've confirmed that the next milestone in the phased opening of their new expanded Anfield Road stand, it's the opposite end from the Kop, the upper tier of the new stand will be partially open for the big match against Manchester United in the middle of next month, December the 17th. Several thousand general admission seats are expected to be available to supporters, subject to a couple of checks still to be done, an internal test managed in conjunction with the City Council and a public test event as well. This is a bit earlier than Liverpool had previously been anticipating, so good news for Liverpool and their fans.
Now the warning that we talked about earlier, where Roberto De Zerbi, after the last match for Brighton, basically said in the 1-1 draw with Sheffield United, he's not a fan of 80% of the referees in England. That got to the FA. The FA wasn't happy. Here's the end result, courtesy of, once again, our friends at Sky Sports News.
Right, some more breaking news to bring you now. The FA have warned Brighton head coach Roberto De Zerbi about his future conduct following comments about match officials after his side's 1-1 draw with Sheffield United. De Zerbi said he didn't like 80% of English officials after the Premier League game at the Amex on November the 12th. It comes after Brighton midfielder Mahmoud Dahoud was given a red card for a tackle on Ben Osborne after the match. He did say that he accepted the punishment, but De Zerbi himself was booked by referee John Brooks for his reaction at the time. Then after the match, De Zerbi said, "I am honest and clear. I don't like 80% of English referees. That isn't a new opinion. I don't like them. I don't like their behaviour on the pitch." And now the FA have warned Roberto De Zerbi about his future conduct following those comments about match officials.
And leading us into the 3D, it is Kaveh Solakal and his weekly pronouncement about what's going on with the sale of Manchester United. On Sky Sports News, here's Kave breaking it all down, where it might be another week.
Goes on. How close are we getting to him getting 25% of the club?
I keep saying this to you, Mike. We're getting very, very close. We were expecting an announcement this week. The announcement hasn't come yet, and I don't think we're now going to get it until next week. Why? Because tomorrow is Thanksgiving in the United States, so the New York Stock Exchange is going to be closed for a couple of days. So it's not going to be until next week when I think we'll get this announcement. Because what Jim Ratcliffe is trying to do is buy 25% of the shares that belong to the Glazer family, so he can negotiate with them, buy those shares. But buying 25% of the shares that are listed on the New York Stock Exchange is a little bit more complicated. He has to put out an official offer for those shares. And I think that is why it's taking a little bit longer than anticipated. But everybody still expects this deal to be done. It's dragging on a little bit longer than we were expecting, but everyone's got to be patient. It's already lasted a whole year. So I think a few more days here and there is not going to make that much of a difference.
I want to talk about the fact it's taken a year. How has that impacted United, both on and off the pitch?
Well, United have been in limbo. Let's start by talking about off the pitch. What has happened to Manchester United's share price? Look here, a year ago, when it was officially announced that United were launching this strategic review, which could lead to the Glazers selling United, look what happened to the share price. It went from $13 straight away to $23. And then, as you can see, over the rest of the year, it's gone up and down. Why has that been happening? Those peaks are basically times when there have been reports that, for instance, Sheikh Jassim of Qatar has tabled a new offer, or there have been reports that he's close to completing a deal to buy Manchester United. When the share price goes down, that is conflicting reports saying that, no, things are not going well, or the Glazers are divided, or the share price is off. Close to you, September 23 as well, you see the share price really comes down. That is because of reports that Sheikh Jassim of Qatar has pulled out of the running. And now we see today the share price is around $19. We're expecting Jim Ratcliffe next week to offer around $33 a share. So he's offering a 75% premium. That is to convince the 25% of the shareholders he needs to sell them his shares.
So that leads us to the moment that we always have here toward the end of the show at Prem and Proper. It's the 3D, the Drew Dickinson diatribe. As we always say, there's a lot of Manchester United, understandably so. So here's Drew and Joey Styles.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Thanksgiving edition of the 3D, the Drew Dickinson diatribe. I hope everyone enjoyed their time with friends, family, and of course, I hope everyone ate good. I know I did. I filled my first plate up so large I wasn't able to go back and get a second until dessert, of course. But I've got some good news. After what seems like a long international break, the Premier League is back this weekend. But of course, first, I want to talk a little Manchester United. The major topic of discussion is still, of course, the Ineos Sir Jim Ratcliffe 25% takeover of Manchester United. Remember, it's just the sporting side of the club so far. Still waiting on the completion of that. And then, of course, the announcement. Of course, neither have happened yet. It's the same old story almost every week. The deal is not expected to be done. You know, it's this week, next week, the week after. You know, it's been going on for about 4 straight weeks now. Would just really like to figure out a way to get to the end / the beginning of this insane takeover saga. But nonetheless, we are moving forward. There have been some other fascinating stories coming out recently regarding Manchester United. One that I'd like to talk about is how there could be a Champions League ban on United or Nice. That's because of Sir Jim Ratcliffe having stake in both of the clubs. Both cannot play in Champions League. Here's a quick example. If United finish 4th in the Premier League and Nice finish 3rd, 2nd, or 1st in France, United will have to play in Europa, and Nice will get the Champions League nod there. So that's something you got to keep a lookout for, because right now United, they're very, very far from the top 4, let alone the top 3. So we'll keep an eye on that. There have come out being reports of 2 very, very, I would say, popular and much needed first team players are unhappy. Let's start first with Raphael Varane. Him and Ten Hag have reportedly have had a falling out, which stems back to the Manchester City, the 3-0 loss to Manchester City, where Erik Ten Hag said before the game that he is starting Johnny Evans over Raphael Varane due to tactical reasonings. Again, I'm not too sure. I don't really want to get into that, the tactical reasonings behind it, but I'll just say this. Last season, with a fit Varane and a fit Lisandro Martinez, they were arguably the best center back duo, not just in England, but possibly in Europe. And we don't know the truth. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but let's be honest. Varane teaming up with Johnny Evans isn't a way to protect one of your star players. So in my opinion, protect Varane, use Maguire, who's been playing fantastic. You cannot drop Harry Maguire at this point. So maybe we'll see Varane and Maguire teaming up this weekend. Who knows? Because some of the reports about Raphael Varane are a little conflicting. Some say he wants to stay, and some say he wants to move on. Because, reasoning why he wants to say he's settled. He wants to stay in Manchester because he's settled. He likes it here, and he was thought to want to retire here at United. But like I said, we'll keep an eye on the Varane situation as that progresses. And as far as Casemiro, reports say he wants personnel change, whatever that means. And that may result in Casemiro needing some convincing to stay past January. There have been some reports that he's been approached by the Saudi club Al Ahly for a January move. Al Ahly already has some very popular players from the Premier League on their roster, including Eduardo Mendy from Chelsea, plus a few more. Some really good news for us United fans. Onto some good news. Like I said, we'll keep an eye on the Casemiro and Varane situations as they progress, but onto some smiles. Luke Shaw back in training, and he is fit and available for selection on Sunday. Absolutely fantastic. He's been out for, a little over 3 months with a muscle injury, and his return just provides an absolute massive boost to this United starting 11, not just for the squad in particular, obviously the entire squad in particular, but for that back 4 and for Andre Onana. We can see if we can't start to get some camaraderie with that back 4 here as time starts to progress, because we expect Lisandro Martinez back in a month or so. He has been spotted watching training, whatever that means. Let's hope that he will return to action here real soon. United currently sit 6th in the table with 21 points. This weekend, they traveled to the Merseyside to face Everton, who, their club, Sean Dyche and his men, you would think that they're kind of in shambles, who, they just received that massive blow, the 10-point deduction for the law breaches. I'm sure the Soccer Down Here crew will get into that a little bit more here for you guys. But I digress. I think United traveled to Goodison Park and they cruised to a 2-0 lead. And we're going to keep going a little bit. We're going to move on to some more of this week's action. I think we can all agree the game of the week, Manchester City, Liverpool winner will go top of the table for now. Still got Arsenal and Spurs nipping at the heels. I can't wait for this matchup tomorrow morning. Klopp versus Pep, always fun. But I'm thinking, a 1-1, 2-2 draw. Reports coming out, Haaland getting injured on Norway duty. We'll see if he's really fit. Norway kept him out for their last matchup over international break, and reports say that he's fit. He was due to travel back to Manchester to train and be ready for the Liverpool clash Saturday morning at 7:30 a.m. It's fun to look at this top five. You always want to talk about the top four, but the top five separated by only 3 points. Just fantastic. So much fun. Arsenal, Liverpool, City, Aston Villa, Tottenham, all in lieu there for the top four as things speak. And we'll move on to our weekly battle at the bottom as we see Sheffield United welcoming in Bournemouth. The Blades are in 18th place. The Cherries are in 16th place. Another fascinating stat here, point stat, if you will. We just talked about the top five being separated by 3 points. It seems year in and year out that the battle at the bottom has brought so much entertainment, arguably more entertainment than the top three, because Manchester City have just flown away with it, it seems, all of the past 3 or 4 years. But the bottom five are only separated by 5 points. So no doubt, an absolute fantastic Premier League weekend of soccer here ahead of us. Cannot wait. So many more fantastic matchups ahead on the weekend slate. But alrighty, unfortunately, that's going to be it for me. Thank you so much for listening to the 3D. This weekend is going to be exciting, so be sure to tune in to all the Premier League matchups, all the action coming at you. I am Drew Dickinson. We will talk next week. Enjoy the rest of your holiday weekend, everyone. I am out.
Thank you, gentlemen. Now let's get you into the matchups this weekend, and it comes with the juice boxes that are attached. What do we do when we get juice boxes now that we've passed Thanksgiving and heading toward Christmas? I know, that's good. Christmas gifts, side dishes, something like that? We'll figure it out. All right, so here we go. It is Saturday, Sunday, Monday Night Football. Very, very busy Saturday. Once again, the early match, as mandated by security forces, Manchester City and Liverpool get to be the lunchtime match on Saturday. Manchester City, a -128. Your draws of +326. About the same for Liverpool to win outright at the Etihad. 10 o'clock, very, very busy schedule. 5 matches there. Burnley, an underdog at Turf Moor. West Ham comes to town at a +108. Luton Town at Kenilworth Road is a +274, hosting Crystal Palace at a +110. Newcastle hosting Chelsea, take the over. Newcastle at a +161. Draws a +254. Chelsea at a +173. Forest and Brighton, interesting contrast here. Brighton on the road at Sitting Ground a +123. Nottingham Forest a +227. Your draws a +263. Bramall Lane has Sheffield United and Bournemouth. Bournemouth a road favorite, almost twice the margin at a +121. Draws a +258. Sheffield United is a +233. The irony of the David Raya conversation coming to the fore at 12:30 is Brentford hosts Arsenal at G-Tech. Brentford a +375. Arsenal is a -132. 2 matches on your Sunday. It is Spurs hosting Villa at 9 Eastern at a +149. Villa's a +165. Draws a +293. 11:30 Eastern, it is Everton hosting Manchester United at a +172. Manchester United, much to Drew's approval, is a +161. Your draws a +254. Monday Night Football, 3 o'clock Eastern on the U.S. side of the Atlantic. Fulham at Craven Cottage hosting Wolves at a +145. Draws a +236. Wolves are a +204. That's your rundown of Match Week 13 when it comes to Prem and Proper. Thanks, as always, to Drew Dickinson for the 3D. And thanks to you for hanging out with us. That's your preview. Enjoy your clubs. Enjoy your early wake-up calls. We'll see what happens Saturday morning, bright and early, with Manchester City and Liverpool. Play it safe, everybody. We'll catch up with you next week. Enjoy the Premier League.